Welcome back to the Unusual Grace channel. It is always a pleasure to see you. You are now about to hear another wonderful, powerful journey of a young lady who I met recently and would like to share her story. You are watching God Speaks, the Journey series. You do not want to miss it. Call somebody and come right back. We are going to have a conversation with Mrs. Grace Holness Fraser, and it promises to be quite interesting and moving. And I want you to be on your P's and Q's because God still speaks. Welcome to the program, Grayson. It is so good to have you join me on the Unusual Grace channel. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Grace Ann, now I want you to share with our audience who is Grace Ann? Who is Grace Ann right now?
Okay, Grayson is one of them that has been saved by God grace and mercy. Grayson is doing good now. Grayson is a nurse, thank God.
Yes.
Lives. Okay, I'm doing what I love to do. That's my passion. I always love people, especially elderly.
Mm-hmm.
That's So Grayson is just being Grayson at the
All
moment.
right. Awesome. And I realize that you might be a little nervous, so just breathe and take it easy.
Yeah.
You are here to share your story with a lot of people.
Yes.
And before we even get into your journey, why do you want to share your journey on this platform?
Why I really want to share my journey. God has come true for me, and I really believe that this is going to touch a lot of young people out there who are going through the same thing that I have been through, or has gone through the same thing that I have been through.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that this is going to change somebody's life. I truly believe it.
Amen. Amen.
Yes.
So let's backtrack. So right now, Grayson is a nurse, and Grayson has been saved by grace and is living according to this power that has saved her. And she wants to share her story because others are out there who have gone through but not overcome, probably
Yeah.
are now going through and would just need that hope to see someone who has been through it all and is living now in the grace and power of Almighty God.
Yes,
Where
ma'am.
does your story begin? Your journey? Tell us well, as a matter of fact, before we even get there, I want to paint a picture for our audience in terms of your family life and how it was at home, how it was growing up, and so on. So what was growing up like for you?
Okay. Growing up for me was very rough one. I have grown up with my grandma. My grandma was my mother and my father at that time. Especially going to school was one of the roughest time of my life.
All right, so before you get to school, you grew up with your grandmother who was
Yes, my
playing that role for you. Are you able to say where your biological parents were?
yes. My mom, she was living in the same community that I'm from. It's in Manchester, Florida, in Manchester. She was living nearby. But my mom, she weren't in that stable mind to take care of a child. So that's when my grandma stepped in and decided to take over. So that's how I grew with my grandma. But my dad, no. What I heard is that my dad went away when I was born, like a week after I was born. I didn't know my dad until I was 7 years old. So my dad was in St. Catherine at the time, Telsha St. Catherine.
Okay, but
So
you were raised in Manchester.
yes,
Oh.
Manchester is where I was raised.
All
Yes.
right, so you were speaking about school.
Okay. All right. Growing up for me was a very rough one because my grandma didn't have much. My grandma was a small farmer. As you know, St. Elizabeth or Manchester people, they do farming.
Mm-hmm.
So going to school, primary school, weren't that bad for me because it was just a walking distance. Whatever she have to give to offer for me to eat, I will eat and go to school. But my high school journey was one of the roughest one ever because most of the time my grandma didn't have it to send me to school. I'm a lover of school. I always love school. Whenever time my grandma told me, listen, I don't have it for you to go to school today. Nobody can talk to me for the rest of the day. I cried all day. I love school. So going to high school was a tough journey. Most of the times I have to walk and ask people for like $100 just to go to school. Sometimes I even tell the bus drivers, lie that my mom is going to pay you, my grandma is going to pay you just to reach the school.
Okay. So you grew
Yeah.
up poor basically then. Did
It was
you did you have brothers and sisters?
yes.
Did you grow with them?
I grew with my sister. My sister is also my mother child. I grew with
Okay.
my sister and also cousins at the
Oh, so
time
you grew with some cousins as well.
as well. Yes, I
Oh, okay. Those cousins were children of your mother's siblings?
siblings, right? My
Okay.
mother sisters.
So what was your relationship like with your sister and with your cousins growing up in the house?
Okay, with my sister, she and I, we didn't have a close relationship. We didn't have a close relationship, but my cousins and I was the eldest of all my cousins that I grew up with. But my cousins and I, we have a good relationship, even more than my sister and I, because my sister is one that don't listen. She don't take talk from nobody. So she always want to be ahead of you at all times. So
Mhm.
she and I couldn't get along.
How about the relationship with your grandmother? How would you describe that relationship with your grandmother?
It's a good one. My grandma was my best friend.
Ah,
It was a
okay.
good one. It was a good one. She was my best friend. I could go and sit and talk to her about anything. She was
Okay,
my
great. That's nice. So you had an auntie somewhere in there?
yes, I have an auntie
So that
somewhere.
auntie was living in the same house with you, grandma, and cousins and sister.
Yes, she was.
How was your relationship with that aunt?
Um, my relationship with that aunt weren't a good one. To be honest, it weren't a good one, especially when my grandma is not around. I I would say I don't know if she at that time she didn't love me or whatever, but I have some bad experience with her. Um, for instance, something happened and I try to explain to her what happened. She don't try to listen to my side of the story. She always like buffing me or bullying me and all of those. And I would say I was the one that always do everything for her in the house. I have to wash. her clothes, her kids' clothes. I have to carry the
Wow.
bucket of water on my head
Mm-hmm.
miles away from home. I have to carry the bucket of water, which is a 5 gallon bucket of water on my head. And she would always like, if you don't have that barrel of water, you're not going to school and you have to do it before you go to school. And if I don't do it, trust me,
So did your aunt have these expectations of your cousins?
no.
Did she ask them to do the same kind of chores that you had, or you were the only one?
I were the only one because they're her kids. They're her kids. So
All of the other cousins were her children?
yes,
Oh, okay, okay, okay. And they were all younger than you.
yes, they were younger than I am.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going a little bit ahead of time. So you say if you didn't have the water done and if you didn't do the chores, then she would do what?
She would spank me.
Mm.
There were days that I have to stop from school. I'm the only one that have to stop from school to help her with the market load, like trim the scallion and all of that for her to go to the market while her kids always attend school. She just me. I'm the one that always working, working, working.
Oh, okay. I understand. That must have been very challenging for you as a child.
It has, it has.
Mm.
There were days when I said to myself, you know, I'm not going back home. I don't want to go home. I just don't want to go home
Did you
because
talk with your grandmother about this strain that you were having with your aunt?
no, I didn't.
Okay, okay. Why not? Since grandma was, very close to you.
I was so much afraid to
Mhm.
say something because I know the type of person that she is, that my aunt was at the time. So I was so much afraid to say to my grandma because I was saving myself the trouble.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. All right. And I'm going a little bit ahead here because, I'm familiar with parts of your journey. But somewhere in there is a stepfather as well. This
Yes.
this is the father of your sister, your little sister that you're growing up with.
Yes, this is the father of my sister.
So did he live in the same yard, in the same house, or did he live somewhere else?
He was living somewhere else.
Was your sister living there with him?
No,
Did he lived alone?
he lives alone.
What was your relationship like with him?
Okay, I can say that he shows me love. To be honest, he shows me love because my relationship with him was I could ask him for Jackie ride at any time. He always gives Jackie ride.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
At one point, I remember myself calling him daddy.
Okay.
He was always there for me. He was always there.
But did he visit grandma's house
Yes,
sometimes to look for you and your sister or
sometimes, but most of the times we always go by his house. Most of
okay,
the
so
time.
he was the playful type, show very loving, very warm and so
Yes.
on and could okay, good. All right. So there's a cousin that will come up somewhere in your journey. And I would ask about that cousin later on, but just checking, is this cousin living in the home that you are now in, or is a different cousin?
It's a different cousin. This cousin is from my dad's side. Is my dad auntie child.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
We
And
attend high school.
you were attending the same high school.
Yes.
Oh, this is a male cousin,
No, it's a female cousin.
female cousin. And what was the relationship like with you and that female cousin that we'll hear a little bit more about later?
Our relationship was good. She was a good cousin to me. In high school, the
Mm-hmm.
time, yes, our relationship was okay.
So the only time did you know where she lived?
Yes, I know where she lives.
She lived in the community as well.
No, she's living in the community of Newport, Manchester.
So Newport is how far away in terms of maybe minutes or 1 or 2 bus drive? How far away was Newport from where you were?
Minutes away.
If you're
Like
driving,
30 minutes away or less. Depends. It
30
depends.
minutes or less if you're driving.
Your driving. Yes.
Okay. So what was the relationship like? You said that you had a good relationship. So is it that you would look for each other at your homes, or is it that when you just went to school, you had a thing going at school where you would eat lunch together, talk and laugh and so on?
Yes. Mostly at schools.
Okay.
Most schools, whenever time we were at school, yes, we would eat, hang out together and all of that.
Mm-hmm. All right,
So
great.
it's at school, not at home.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about church. In your growing up, so we've heard about your family setup and situation. You're living with grandma. One of your grandma's daughter, your auntie, is also there with her children, your cousins. You have one of your sister there, your little sister, and then that's the home setup. You have a very good relationship with grandma, a strained relationship with the auntie, not very close to your sister because she don't take talk from nobody. And then you have your cousins who you had a better relationship with those cousins. And
Yes.
because of the situation where your grandmother was a small scale farmer, she was not always able to provide money for you to go to school. So that was a strain, even though you loved school and so on. And then somewhere in there, you said that your mother was living elsewhere because she wasn't of the frame of mind to take care of a child. So your grandmother took up that responsibility. And you did
Yes.
not meet your father, who left you after a week after you were born until you were 7 years old.
Yes.
So we assume now that your father did not play a very big role in your life because he was living in an entirely different parish while you were in Manchester. And then you had a stepfather who was very playful and fun and loving and so on, and treated you as a daughter,
Yes.
basically. And he
Yes.
lived close by, but not in the same house.
Oh,
And most of
right.
the times you guys would visit and so on. So we have a very good picture of the family setup. What about your church? Is this a family that went to church? Did you grow up in church?
Yes. My grandma, every Sunday, there is not one Sunday that we miss church. We have to go to church because that was my grandma. My grandma grew us in church. We have to
Awesome.
attend Sunday school as early as the morning is. We have to leave her and go to Sunday school. Yes, and we better make sure so we know our Sunday school lesson.
Because she's gonna ask.
You're gonna ask.
Yeah.
She going to ask. Yes. So
Nice.
we grew up in church. I have grown up in church.
All right, very good. I know that you are a professing Christian now, but
Yes.
before now, did you at any point growing up, growing in church, did you at any point profess to be a Christian? Where did you at any point surrender your life to Jesus Christ? When did you?
Yes, I have. When I was 19 years of age,
Oh,
I
okay.
was always thought that I
So
was
at
a Christian
19, you were becoming a Christian for the very first time.
very first time.
At 19. All
At
right. So we'll hold it there. We'll hold it there for now. So now we have a good understanding now of the church thing. You grew
yes,
up in church, but
yes,
still you didn't make a decision until you
I
were
did.
19 years old and so on.
Right.
Okay, so now we are back in high school. We're back in high school. You're in grade 9.
Yes.
And your ninth grade year was very significant for you.
Yes.
Tell us now what happened.
Okay. When I was in grade 9 at Crosskeys High School in Manchester, I can remember one summer, it was a summer jam at the school. So my cousin, which is the cousin from my father's side of family, she came to me and she said to me, after summer jam, I want you to follow me somewhere. I asked her where. She said, in Broughton, which is near to where I would go and take the bus. The bus have to pass there to go to my community. So I said, okay, no problem. Since it's where I'm going to take the bus, I have no problem to follow it.
All right, so before we got to the taking the bus, how old were you now?
I was just 15.
So you're 15 years old, and this jam was put on by the school.
By the school, right?
So it's a summer jam, everybody there having a grand time and dancing and excitement and so on. Jam
Right.
finish, and your cousin, who up to this point had a very good relationship, this is your good friend at school, says to
Exactly.
you that she wants to go somewhere and asks you if you want to accompany her.
Which is right.
Did she tell you where you were going?
She did. She did.
All right, continue.
She did. So she said to me, I must follow her to Broughton. So I said to her, okay, since it's where I'm going to take the bus has to pass there. So I will. So I followed her. We took the taxi there because it's a little journey. It's a little bit long walk from the school to there. So we took the taxi there. I followed her and we went in the house. While we went in the house, I didn't see anyone, no one at all. I didn't see no one. So I sit there in the living room and she entered into a room.
All right, so whose house was this?
At this time, it was one of our school friend. It was her boyfriend house at that
Okay.
time.
And this boyfriend was also a school aged
Yes.
person?
Yes.
Okay, so that means parents would have lived there and everything, but nobody was home at that time.
Nobody was home.
What time of day was that?
It was, I think it was around 4 o'clock in the evening.
All right.
4 o'clock in the evening.
So you are now in the home, you entered in, you did not see anybody.
No,
You are
we didn't.
sitting in the living room, and your cousin has gone into another room. Now,
Yes,
what did she say was supposed to happen at this house? Why were you there? Did you have that conversation?
yes, she told me that she was just going to look for him. That's what she told me.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay. She's going to look for the young man that's her boyfriend.
right.
All right.
So when we went there and I was there sitting in the living room and she entered the room, I didn't see she didn't come back out, none at all. I was still sitting waiting for her. While I was there sitting waiting for her, um a barrage of guys that I know from my community.
So before you got to the barrage of guys that just entered in suddenly, did you hear any voices in the other room with your cousin? She went into her room. She said she coming to look for her boyfriend. You said you didn't see anybody. Did you hear anything like she was talking with somebody or she was in the room with anybody? Did you hear anything at all?
No, I didn't.
And you didn't go to look where she was, called her, anything? Was she gone for long before you see these other people come in, or was it just like a short time?
It was like around 5 minutes.
Okay.
It was like around 5 minutes.
So now you see a group of boys, these are school-aged boys,
Age boys, right?
coming into the house, and
From another.
you know all of them because they're from your community.
Yes, I know all of them.
About how many of them were there?
I can remember around 7 of them. I
Okay.
can remember. They came from another room, and I was so surprised. I was so surprised. But at that time, I didn't feel no fear at all. Because I was saying to myself, oh, it's just guys from my community that I know. So I don't need to be afraid. So while I was there sitting, one of the guy, he said to me, Grace, is the thing we come find now cause you're going like a goal line it. Look how long we are beg you and you're going like. So I returned to him and I said to him, if I'm supposed to have sex, it's going to be my husband. I'm not ready for no sex. So like that now just
All
build
right,
up some.
just a moment before you continue. So one of them says that to you. Them
Yes.
come for the thing, you're going like a goal and look how long. Is it
Yeah.
that, because yes, you have already established that you knew these boys. Is
I
it
know.
that they had in the past pressured you for sex? Was there any conversation or attempts at that before this point?
Yes.
Okay.
One of them always, I have to pass his house to reach to my house. And sometimes when I'm passing his house, him always like putting arguments to me. You know, make me get it in, you know, make me get it in, you know, to them words. And
Wow.
I'm always like, no, I'm not ready and I'm not into those type of stuff.
Did you at any point think that he was serious?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I mean, you just think that he's just giving trouble and so on. So you didn't take it too seriously. So you didn't mention this to your grandmother or any other adult in your family.
Didn't. I didn't.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. What happened next?
What happened next is they came, they walk like as if they are going to the door to enter the living room. At that time, I thought they were going out. So what they did is one of them grabbed my held onto my hands, and then the other one held onto my feet, and they lift me up and bring me into a room while I was there crying and kicking. And they bring me into the room, and one of them hold both of my hands over my head, behind my head, and the other one pull my pants off while I was there, and one of them were there putting on condom, and the other one there putting his hand over my mouth, telling me to be quiet and stop my noise. And after that, all I can remember what happened there from is when the one that put on the condom, he came onto me and he inserted his penis into my vagina. I was there crying, 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 crying. I cried till I literally blacked out. I didn't know what take place after that. I blacked out. And I woke up, find myself lying on the bed with blood running down my legs.
Wow, I'm really sorry that you had to experience that. How you remembered the one who was putting on a condom.
Yes,
Before you blacked out, were
yes,
there more than one who had forced themselves upon you?
yes. Because it's like they were getting ready one behind the other. It's like they were discussing who is going to go first and who is going to go second and all of that. And they threatened me if I ever say a word that they're going to kill my mom.
Oh, okay. All right. So you cried until you blacked out
Yes,
and you
I
woke
cried.
up in a pool of blood. You woke up on the bed
Yes,
or
on
on
the
the
bed.
floor.
I was on the bed.
Sexual abuse, sexual assault is never ever easy to handle. Our guest, Grace, as you would have heard, she was sexually assaulted not by one, but by multiple young men from her community. Her story doesn't end here, even though we have to stop for now. The rest of her story might surprise you. So I want you to join next week for part 2 of the journey of Grayson. Don't miss it. But I want to, before we go, if you have been assaulted, if you have been abused sexually, one, you can be delivered from that trauma. Secondly, justice can be served if you are willing to report it to the police. And that is encouraged. But maybe you don't want to go there, which is often very common for victims of this kind of assault. Nevertheless, if you seek the necessary counseling and are willing to go through the sessions, you can learn how to cope with and to get through the trauma experienced or the trauma that is a consequence of that experience in your own life. You do not have to live less than you are meant to live. You can live a life of peace of mind, joy, and abundance if you are willing to get through this. And if you invite the Lord Jesus Christ into your heart and life, He can make a change. And by His Spirit, the healing will begin, and He can take you from where you are to a place of being wholesome, victorious, and take your test, your mess, turn it into a message and a testimony so you can be part of the work to help bring others through this very, very traumatic experience. Thank you so much for joining. Until next time, always remember that through His word, through the testimonies of His saints, God speaks.